So now what? What you want to do? We just solved a 300-year-old problem.
I never thought that I was going to have to make this debunking video. See, a couple years ago, when C-list celebrity actor Terrence Howard first announced that he had made a groundbreaking discovery in mathematics and the reality of our universe, finding out that 1 times 1 equals 2, actually, I laughed it off like everybody else, assumed that he would have his 15 minutes of fame where everybody was roasting him for this new math that he was literally calling Terryology, and then everyone would get bored and we would move along and forget about it. But boy, was I wrong. I thought that after being embarrassed on Joe Rogan's podcast by none other than pseudoscientist charlatan Brett Weinstein, that would be enough to make this man go away. But no. I thought that when he announced that he was retiring from acting, that might be enough to get this man to go away. But no. And I really thought that he would be forced to go away after being exposed as a fraud and a snake oil salesman in front of the entire world after he took a trip to Uganda to promise the entire executive leadership of that country that his science of Terryology and his technology that he's developed with his groundbreaking insights would somehow create a super technology that would replace all modes of flight and agricultural production and could also clean up all the pollution and could basically just do everything and turn Uganda into a futuristic country like Wakanda. I mean, it's really like Terrence Howard took that role in Iron Man and just thought he became Tony Stark.
And I was able to define the grand unified field equation they've been looking for and put it into geometry. And then with that geometry, I was able to put props on that. And what I'm saying is now we have invented a new form of flight that I would like to bring here to Uganda to replace the drones, to replace the helicopters, to replace the planes. We have all the funding necessary. What we need is just a fertile ground in which to build this. Now, this is the geometry of hydrogen. Of hydrogen.
Hydrogen.
This is the proton itself. So any bond that hydrogen can make, our linchpins are able to make. So we're talking about unlimited bonding, unlimited predictable structures, supersymmetry. And the linchpins are now able to behave as a swarm, as a colony that can defend a nation, that can harvest food, that can remove plastics from the ocean, that can give the children of Uganda and the people of Uganda an opportunity to spread this and to sell these products throughout the world. So we are no longer just selling agricultural products and pieces from the land. We can now sell and take center stage with technology.
To the surprise of absolutely nobody, when the Ugandan government looked into Terry's claims, they found out that actually he was spewing total nonsense and had no idea what he was talking about. It's been almost 3 years, Terry. Where's your linchpin technology today? Just since we're here, though, let's really quickly debunk the nonsense that Terry just said. He said that his linchpins can do all the same kinds of bonding as a hydrogen atom. Well, guess what hydrogen atoms definitely cannot do? All the things that Terry just said that his linchpins can do. So yeah, clearly this is not making any sense. He has never demonstrated any of this empirically, scientifically, or mathematically. It's literally just nonsense and lies and delusions of grandeur.
Unlimited bonding.
But here we are, the year of our Lord 2025, and Terrence Howard is back on his bullshit.
March 20th, 2025. This is the day the three-body enigma was solved. Happy birthday, world.
Okay, so right off the bat, I'm not sure why Terry thinks that March 20th is the Earth's birthday, but let's just try to move past that. What is the three-body problem that he's talking about? Over 300 years ago, Isaac Newton came up with the equations to describe the laws of motion and the laws of universal gravitation that describe the way that large, massive bodies like planets orbit each other gravitationally. These equations did a really great job when there were just two bodies, or two planets, or two stars orbiting each other, and these equations could give very precise answers for their dynamics of motion. However, once you add three or more bodies, the equations become unyieldy, and minute differences in the initial conditions can lead to drastically different outcomes. This means that we cannot use Newton's equations in order to calculate the dynamics of a three-body gravitational system. That's the three-body problem in a nutshell. However, I do want to just say that we can actually have alternative numerical methods in order to accurately predict the dynamics and the motions of these three-body systems. We just don't use Newton's equations, but there are very, very advanced AIs that can do this in just a few milliseconds and can achieve accurate solutions to the three-body problem without using Newton's equations. But now, thanks to Terrence Howard, we can throw out all of those numerical methods because Terrence posted on Instagram a paper that he wrote together with this guy, Chris Seeley, where they claim that the linchpins of Terryology can finally solve this 300-year-old problem in physics. I am going to go ahead and press X to doubt on that one, but let's have an open mind. Let's open Instagram, open this paper, and see just what it is that Terry solved. And of course, over the span of just a few days, it's already amassed several million views over multiple social media platforms. So if it wasn't abundantly clear enough already, Terrence Howard isn't going anywhere. So I guess that means it's finally time to debunk Terryology, as low-hanging fruit as that is. By the way, I did look up Terrence's co-author, Chris D. Seeley, and see that he has exactly one other publication that is also co-authored with Terrence Howard about Terryology, and the institution that he represents is called the Church of Truth, Love, and Consciousness. So make of that what you will. Now, the very first thing that you'll notice when you open up Terrence and Chris's paper is that it's not structured like any other kind of scientific paper. There is no abstract. It goes right into the introduction and is only 3 pages long. So let's just go point by point. The paper begins by introducing us to the three-body problem, and it actually does a decent job of doing so, pointing out how the nonlinear dynamics of the equations make it so that we can never find exact solutions and are relying on other numerical methods. Next, Terry goes on to say that his Terryology introduces harmonic corrections and geometric constraints that stabilize the three-body system using his linchpin geometry, tetryon shape, and Howard comma corrections. Now, for any of you asking, what the hell does that mean? You're not alone. Let's see if Terry can bring it home for us and take us through the math here. Terry starts by trying to offer us a definition of what he's calling curvilinear tetrahedral constraints, which he then just a couple sentences later says are not constraints, but they're corrections, seemingly not knowing the difference. But we actually have our first equation. So what is this equation showing us? Well, he seems to say that this tetrahedral geometric constraint / curvilinear correction is equal to just the average distance between the three bodies, which he then goes on to clarify does not change over time, which creates a stable geometric node according to Terrence Howard. So already, our very first step, we are breaking with reality. When we observe three-body gravitational systems, one of the first things that you will note about them is that the distance between all three bodies isn't constant over time. Like, as these three bodies are rotating, the distance in between them changes. But the very first step of Terry's math here is to just declare that the average distance between each of these three bodies does not change over time. So already we are leaving reality behind us. Go off, King. Step number 2 is the bifurcation through I and -1 dimensions. Some of you may be asking, wait a minute, I thought that our reality was 3-dimensional in space and 1 dimension of time. So where are we getting imaginary dimensions and negative dimensions from? Well, that's a great question for Terry. I wish that he had explained why in his paper. All Terry offers us by means of explanation is to say that to further correct for these chaotic instabilities, the system undergoes, quote, harmonic bifurcation in imaginary and negative dimensions. I'm sorry, Terry, but I'm going to need some sort of evidence for the existence of negative and imaginary dimensions. Maybe using these made-up mathematical concepts somewhere along his work, maybe he'll just get accurate results at the end, right? We'll see. Let's give Terry the benefit of the doubt. After all, I've seen Stephen Hawking using imaginary time for some of his calculations. There are times in physics where maybe the math along the way doesn't correspond with any sort of ontic reality, like Schrodinger's wave function or something like that. And maybe by the end of this, Terry will use his negative and imaginary dimensions to get an accurate answer at the end. Wouldn't that be something? Next, Terry introduces us to the Howard comma, which is apparently a new type of mathematical invention that he named after himself, which amounts to basically just him declaring that the perturbative deviation of the system equals 0 for some reason. He doesn't want to go into it, but it makes all the math cleaner, so just trust him on this one, guys. And apparently that's all the math that we need to know for this, because we're already on to the third section of just analyzing the results. So first they want us to consider the Hamiltonian, which for those of you that don't know, a Hamiltonian is kind of like an equation describing the total energy of a system. In this case, this looks like a bunch of very intimidating math, but literally all this is describing is that for a three-body system, the total energy equals the sum of all the kinetic energy for the three bodies plus the sum of all the potential energy. It's literally just high school level physics, maybe even middle school level physics, just disguised in a very complex way that would maybe intimidate a lot of people. Next, Terry says that his corrected system maintains its periodicity by confining the orbits to invariant manifolds defined by the linchpin geometric constraints, which he then provides below. So basically, he's just defining all the critical points for the Hamiltonian to be invariant just because he's saying that they are invariant. Like, it doesn't work that way. You have to derive that. So far, his only analytic derivation of these stable orbits was to say that total energy is conserved. Brilliant. And finally, in section 4, they claim to perform numerical simulations of their three-body system with these corrected linchpin constraints and Howard comma harmonics. There's a mouthful. Finally, they claim that when you compare the Terryology math with the classical Newtonian equations, Terrence Howard's equations give us stable, periodic three-body orbital systems with harmonic nodes. Wow, if only we could compare his results with actual observed three-body systems or accurate numerical methods which do precisely describe the dynamics of three-body systems. If only we had that material. Oh no, wait a minute, we do have all that material. And what does it show us? Oh, right. Actually, three-body systems do not form stable periodic orbits with harmonic nodes. That's actually not at all what any of this is similar to in reality. When we actually observe three-body systems in real life, we find that they are absolutely nothing like the three-body systems that Terryology predicts. They don't have harmonic nodes. They're not stable and periodic, they're quasi-periodic at best. And even those ones are the exception rather than the rule. The systems that Terryology and his linchpins are predicting here are just completely divorced from all astrophysical reality. Like I said, we already have the numerical methods to precisely describe the dynamics and movements of these three-body systems. We just don't use Newton's equations for that. We can do it with other numerical methods and they get accurate results, and they are completely and utterly different from the results that Terrence Howard is giving us here. Terrence Howard results do not map onto reality at all. The numerical methods have been very successful and accurate with describing the real three-body systems in our actual universe, Terry. I just find it quite frankly incredible that going through all of this BS math, and at the end of the day, the answer that he gets is just completely wrong and inaccurate to the world that we live in. And anyone could look that up and see that for themselves. If only Terrence Howard had included the actual results of any of the numerical simulations in the paper. The only thing that we have to go off of is him saying that they are stable and periodic and have harmonic nodes, none of which actual three-body systems have in real life. So therefore, his own paper debunks his own math. Well done. I wish that this would be enough to make Terrence Howard finally go away. But at this point, I don't think anything is going to make this man go away. He's like Kanye West at this point, or Donald Trump. They just have absolutely no modicum or capacity to feel shame, and will just say any kind of wild, out-of-pocket thing to try to get attention. And they just keep failing up to bigger and bigger successful careers. You know what? This actually gives me an idea. I would like to take the end of this video to announce that next week, I will be coming out with my groundbreaking discovery that finally solves the hard problem of consciousness and quantum gravity by uniting them in a supra-symmetrical manifold that unites the ontic neural net distinctions of possibility and intelligibility with the overwhelming quantum wave functions of duality. I will be calling this groundbreaking discovery Graysonology, and it will only be available to subscribers on this YouTube channel who hit that bell button. So, if you want to figure out the unlocked secrets of our universe according to Graysonology, you're gonna have to just subscribe here. Well, it was worth a shot anyway.